Hello, today I will be talking about Judaism and the Jewish culture. I chose this topic because in high school for over a year I worked at a Jewish bakery, and one of my best friends is Jewish, but he does not practice Judaism. The first Jewish people came to Nebraska in 1855. Most of the Jewish settlers at the time were merchants, and then a few years later, in 1881, large amount of Russian Jews started to move out west because of the Industrial Removal Aid Society of New York Act. And so a lot of them settled, or some of them settled in Nebraska, because that is west. And by 1970, still most of the Jewish people that lived in Nebraska were businessmen and professionals just like their ancestors were. I feel like one of the biggest things that Judaism is known for is the fact that they eat kosher. And with eating kosher, there are a lot of rules surrounding it. There are some neutral foods, or also they're called parev foods, which are like eggs, fruits, vegetables, grains, and sometimes fish, but fish is kind of one of like those in-between foods where you can eat like fish and cheese together, but you don't typically cook like on one grill hamburgers and then like fish patties. That's not something that usually happens. And in the Jewish culture, it is considered unclean to eat dairy with meat. In 6th grade, I had a teacher who was Jewish, and she explained it to us. It was like eating the mother's milk with the baby's flesh. I don't know. That's how she explained it to us. There are also foods you can't eat at all if you're Jewish, like pigs, shellfish, rabbits, and reptiles are not to be eaten, and also birds of prey are also not eaten. And then in order for meat to be considered kosher, it has to be slaughtered in a specific way. Another thing is if a non-kosher food comes into contact with a kosher food, it turns the kosher food non-kosher, and that's the same with silverware. So if your friend is eating some cheesy macaroni with beef, and then they take a bite of your just macaroni with their fork, your food would no longer be kosher. Most Jewish people in America speak English, but some of them do speak Hebrew as a second language. It's normally not their primary language that they speak. And in Jewish culture, women are supposed to refer to their husbands for decision making, and they are the people that, raise the children, keep the house clean, make the meals. Some Jewish people can be more prone to genetic diseases that might be more rare in the bigger population because a lot of Jewish people choose to marry other Jewish people within their religion, and so usually their ancestors are related somehow, like distantly, so those diseases get passed on. One disease is Gaucher's disease. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But it's where there's a missing enzyme that breaks down the lipids when you eat them, and then those lipids build up in organs like the spleen and the liver. Another one that most people are fairly know about is cystic fibrosis, and that's where your cells that produce mucus, sweat, and digestive juices, those juices are normally like slippery and thin. In cystic fibrosis, the substances in the juices that are produced are thick and like slippery and sticky, and that's not good. And then there's another one that's a little more common that I found in my research was Tay-Sachs, which again is another missing enzyme that breaks down the fatty substance called gangliosides, and then it can't be broken down, so it builds up in the spinal cord and in the brain, which causes nerve damage in one person. And Judaism, Human life is valued, like in most religions and by most people, but they also realize that life is finite and palliative care may be necessary for some individuals. In those cases, it is believed that everyone has the right to anatomy, beneficence, normificence, and justice, and these decisions to end life can be chosen by the individual's family with help from the healthcare provider and by religious superiors, but it is expected of the physicians to provide the utmost care possible for their family member. I wish I had the t-shirt to show you guys, but this is the little shop that I used to work at in high school. I still have my 2 t-shirts from working there. One thing that I learned working at the bagel shop from one of the owners is that in order to be considered a proper kosher kitchen, you really need to have 2 of everything. 1 oven for dairy, 1 oven for meat, 1 pan for meat, 1 pan for dairy products. And so most people don't keep full kosher at their households. They just clean it in between each use for dairy and meat products. But that's something I learned while working at Bagel Bin.